The air was thick and hot as we walked back to our rented car. My cosplay felt heavy, but at least it wasn't the one with a wool coat. Suddenly, my thoughts were interrupted by a booming noise. I jumped. In the sky, glowing, were fireworks? I turned to my mom, confused. Who would be lighting fireworks in the middle of the road? Surely it wasn't con-goers. Then I remembered. It was the 4th of July. Yes, that's right, listeners. I completely forgot about this holiday, as my favorite early July event happens to be Convergence. 2025's That's How We Roll was a con of firsts for me. First time volunteering, first time on a panel, well, my mom was, first time with my new, first doctor cosplay. If you didn't have the chance to attend, or if you'd simply like to hear what someone else thought about it, this is the postmortem for you. My name is Skylar Schwartz, and you're listening to another episode of the Minnesota Fandom Factor. The Minnesota Fandom Factor. In another first, this year I attended all 4 days of Convergence. I arrived Thursday around noon and poked around the artist alley before settling down for the Deadpool and Wolverine fan panel. I honestly had no idea how many Easter eggs there are in that movie. I spent the rest of Thursday checking out the dealer's room, parties, and just the vibes of the con this year. Speaking of parties, shout out to my favorites. TARDIS Graveyard, obviously, with the Doctor Who theme, mini pancakes, glow-in-the-dark coloring. H2OO was nice. I like the all-ages party rooms for obvious reasons, and also it's just fun to say. H2OO. The God-Awful Theater was fun too. I love watching bad movies, and I got a tiny frog plush. My Thursday was completed with a viewing of the newish, surprisingly not terrible D&D movie in the Cinema Rex. I think a lot of us Fen have cons we go to specifically to meet the guests, and cons we go to every year, no matter what. For me, Convergence falls firmly in the latter category. It was my first con when I was just a little kid, and I've gone almost every year since. This con means a lot to me, as it helped introduce me to fandom. Friday morning was here, and the first thing I needed was a cup of coffee. Earlier years' Cough2E2 endeavors have returned this year in the form of the Reboot Cafe, providing much-needed free caffeination to us tired con-goers. This was my favorite new feature of the con this year, as I usually rely on con-sweet off-brand Mountain Dew to keep me awake. My mom was on a lot of panels today, mostly to do with costuming and Jane Austen. We managed to catch the yearly reading of I'll Be Home for Kayless, the Klingon-themed Hallmark parody. This year it had morphed into Trope Bingo, which was fun, to keep it fresh. If I had a nickel for every Klingon Christmas parody play I've seen, I'd have 3 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that there are at least 3 of them. The Judging a Book by Its Cover panel was genuinely some of the funniest improv I've seen at Convergence. Imagine PowerPoint karaoke, but with absolutely absurd book covers. Also, Lee Harris and Miss Shannon Paul were there, so you just know it's going to be the best. The last event of my Friday was the comedy show on Mainstage, hosted by Miss Shannon Paul. While I appreciate the variety of comedians performing, I would just watch an hour of Miss Shannon Paul. I mean, I don't know, she's just really funny and talented. Saturday morning started with the Cartoons We Miss panel, participants including Miss Shannon Paul and my mom. Yes, I was too young to know most of the cartoons. Notable panels of the day included the Geeks Without God AI discussion panel, which left me kind of depressed, and Smash or Pass, which seemed fun, but they took away the Kahoot join code before we got there. I was also looking forward to getting measured for a chest binder, but sadly that event was cancelled. Another first for me was arguably Convergence's biggest event, the Masquerade. As a cosplayer, I'm honestly not sure why I haven't gone in years previous, but I'm certainly glad I went this year. All 34 entries were well thought out and put together with stunning accompanying performances. From Disney to Jinx to Miku, there was a wide variety of material, and I can honestly say every performance was incredible. I'm so glad I attended the Masquerade this year, and I can't wait to see it again next year. We ended Saturday by dropping in to Theater Nippon at 10:30 to see Bananya, which was absolutely adorable. Sunday had the usual sort of finality to it. Even in the earlier morning, there was this feeling in the air. I grabbed some yogurt from Consuite and watched Red Letter Media until it was time for my first ever volunteering shift, taking down the Space Lounge. For those who haven't gone to Convergence, a mistake I must strongly suggest you remedy, the lounge is home to DJs, dance parties, and other events throughout the con. It's honestly incredible how entirely a boring hotel convention room is transformed into a spacey, shiny, blacklit party. During the 4 hours I was there, the lounge went from almost completely set up to almost completely disassembled. Kind of like moving, but more fun since there's about 20 people helping you, it's not actually your stuff, and you get to watch a guy shimmy up a giant metal dome, throw a bunch of screws and washers at the ground, and shimmy back down the now much shakier giant dome. Yes, while the Splounge Dome may seem like a crash-landed rave spaceship, it's actually constructed of oodles of shiny fabric, lights, mirrors, and a bunch of really heavy metal pipes. Wow, you may say, with all this fabric and lights, the Splounge sounds kind of like a fire hazard. Well, yes. Anyway, after I'd packed about my own weight and reflective confetti, I clocked out and caught the Galaxy Quest fan panel. I picked up a few more ribbons here, so my badge was trailing on the floor at this point. As much as I would have liked to catch the closing ceremony, it was time for my next volunteering shift, tearing down the Reboot Cafe. Apparently, I was the only person to volunteer for this, so I'm glad I did. The cafe was staying at least partially set up for the volunteer Dead Dog movie showing, but there was still lots to put away. I would have stayed to watch the movie, but I don't really like to ride the bus at night, so I headed out at about 6:30. Now it was really over. This is the stage of the con where all the posters are down, tape is off the floor, and only a few volunteers roam the halls. Taking the escalator for the last time this year, I didn't feel the usual post-con blues. There was actually a panel about that, but funnily enough, I'd missed it. Sure, I was gonna miss Convergence, but it didn't feel like such an ending after all. In the past, I've loved Convergence as the uniquely queer and nerdy safe space it is, but lately I've found other spaces. This year, I'm planning on going to Diversicon, Furry Migration, Confluence. Next year, I'm going to MiniCon. These are different spaces, sure, and it's my first time going to any of them. I'm sure I'll meet many new people and see lots of familiar faces as well. But I've gotten to a place where I have this queer, nerdy, safe community outside of 2 to 4 days a year. I have friends with similar interests. I have a job that allows me to express myself. I have, well, found my people. That doesn't make Convergence any less important to me, but it makes the 361 other days a lot easier. I know not everyone has the kind of community I do. That's why it makes me so happy to see people where I was when I started coming to Convergence. Realizing that there is a place where everyone can be out, proud, and openly nerdy. A place where everyone can be celebrated. Where, if you want to, you can forget about what's going on in the world. At least for a couple days. That's all I have to say about this year's Convergence. It was a really special con for me, a con of firsts, and I know that next year's will be just as good. The Minnesota Fandom Factor. Thanks to my supervisor Benji, my mom, and Convergence Events for making this possible.